I initially heard about the Fountain case when I was reading a book titled On the Courthouse Lawn by Sherrilyn Ifill. And she was talking, the book is generally about lynching, especially on the Eastern Shore. And it had about a 6 or 7 page segment in it about the Isaiah Fountain case, which I'd never heard of before. I'm fairly familiar with Talbot County history, and that was completely new to me. So it kind of piqued my interest, and I tried to look it up and found that in the local history books, really it was just mentioned in passing, if at all. But I did some digging. I went to the Talbot County Library, the Maryland room there, and started to look it up in the archives of the Easton Star-Democrat. And I saw a whole bunch of articles there about it and determined that it was a big story at the time. And from there, I went on to do other research with other newspapers and got some information from the Maryland State Archives, and found out that it was a story that, if it was today, it would probably be equivalent to, O.J. Simpson or George Floyd, something like that. Well, the case had to do with an African-American man, Isaiah Fountain, who was accused of raping a white girl. It so happened that he was having some marital difficulties, and the day after the girl got raped, he happened to leave town to go find his wife. And because of that, he was Black. He left town the next day. So kind of made him the prime suspect. And, however, at the time the rape was happening, he happened to be in Easton looking for his wife. And he interacted with 3 prominent white citizens, including the Easton police chief, who later gave him alibis at his trials. But still, he ended up being convicted. But what made the story, what really, I think, brought it to state attention and even national attention, was at the end of the first day of the trial, Isaiah was being taken to the jail, which is just behind the Talbot County Courthouse. And there was an assembled mob there. And the mob was about 2,000 people. And they wanted to lynch Isaiah. So the sheriff and the other law enforcement officers were holding the mob off. And Isaiah was shoved into the sheriff's house, and from there he crawled out a window and went out the back of the jail yard and made an escape, which was, pretty stupendous thing to do here in Talbot County. There was a massive manhunt, and when he was finally found a couple days later, he was brought back. And the court resumed. They resumed, actually, it was almost martial law. A company of Maryland militia troops had to be called from Salisbury, and they were standing guard around the courthouse with fixed bayonets. So Isaiah was found guilty, and he was sentenced to death. But then he happened to get another trial because of deficiencies in the first trial, mainly the violence of the lynch mob influenced the jury. So he had a new trial in Baltimore County, and at that trial he was again found guilty. Much of the same testimony was given, but instead of a jury trial in Towson, he had a trial by 3 judges. And what kind of astounded me is, after the judges found him guilty, they then issued a statement telling why they found him guilty. And the astounding thing was they ended up playing with the timeline of the rape, and they also ignored the witness testimony that he was in Easton at the time. So then these three judges, they concluded that, hey, he did have enough time to leave Easton, travel to the rape scene, stalk the young girl, and then rape her. So they sentenced him to death. And when he was returned to Easton, he escaped again. And this time he was gone for about a week. And people were looking all over for him. People were looking to lynch him. And he was finally found up in Queen Anne and brought back to Easton. And less than a month later, he was hanged. There was testimony where people said that they had seen him the day of the rape and he was in the area where the rape occurred. Different things like that. But, what struck me was these three white citizens in Easton who interacted with Fountain while the rape was occurring. And, one of the citizens was the Easton police chief. And of these three people, I think they certainly had more to lose than these other witnesses. And these people, I think, put their livelihoods and their reputations on the line to provide an alibi for an unpopular supposed rapist.